Well, Deanna, I will kick it off and introduce our listeners to this week's episode where we have got the pleasure of speaking with Deanna. And we were just chatting a little bit before we kicked off here. And Deanna and I think we've known each other for 3, probably maybe 4 years now. We go way back a few years to our learning and development passion and really have a lot in common in regards to just delivering great content and creating a community and being part of something big and making our impact. And I think, Deanna, you're such a great person to have on this podcast right now because we've been talking a lot lately about how mindset is everything, outlook is everything, and just to be courageous in pursuing your dreams, even through tough times. I think we talk a lot about how this year has just really thrown a monkey wrench at a lot of people for a variety of different reasons. And I think that just thinking about knowing you and getting to know you over the years, you just have so much courage to just face any situation head on. I think that I admire your work ethic and I admire just the way that you live. Every day you go out there and you try to make a great experience out of whatever is in front of you, whether it's Deanna used to travel a lot, and whether you're going to Iowa, you're going to find the thing to do in Iowa to have a great experience while you're there for work. You'll go salsa dancing in Chicago. I mean, you just live life, and I think that your thirst and your tenacity to really go out there and make amazing things happen is just really admirable. So thank you for being here with us today, Deanna. And before we start, Deanna, if you could give everybody just a little bit of a rundown of where you've been in your career and tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. I think you've got some really exciting things to come in your future, but would love to hear kind of some of your experience as well.
Thank you, Audrey. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on and that amazing introduction. I have a high bar to hit now. And I'm very proud of you and you doing this. I always say that, you know, things when they happen unexpectedly, when we don't plan it, sometimes they're the best things that can happen to us in life. And I definitely feel that has been something for me, and definitely I can see that in you as well as you continue to grow in your personal as well as your career. So congrats to you and us. So a little bit of my background for those of you that may not be in the world that Audrey and I met in hospitality through Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. I have been in hospitality my entire life as far as career goes. I started in Miami, where I got my bachelor's from hospitality and tourism from Florida International University. And I just knew that hospitality is where I wanted to be because I do love traveling. I do love experiences. I get energized by meeting different people from different backgrounds. I've always loved languages. English was the second language I learned. And after that, I just knew that the more that I could learn from people, the more I could speak their language, I would be able to kind of connect in a different level. So as I left college and looked into what I wanted to do, I knew that this was the space that I wanted to be in. Fast forward a bit, I then moved to New York, worked for Hyatt for almost 8 years altogether in different positions. And then I met some folks at an amazing hotel association convention at the Javits Center that worked for Wyndham, and they introduced me to Wyndham, and I just, you know, fell in love with the idea of working at a different level, which was corporate. And I never, to be honest with you, I never thought that I would be able to do what I love without working holidays, because I've always worked holidays. I mean, you know, you have very similar background to me. Working in a hotel, you are at the mercy of your guests, of the hotel, of those schedules. And I never knew that I could have almost a regular 9-to-5 office schedule and still work for a hotel group. I did that for about 2 years. So I was working at the corporate office. After that, I got the amazing opportunity of doing what I did last, which was travel the Americas, I'll say. It wasn't just the US, but Canada and LATAM, and do what we did, global training and development. And I just never knew that I would be able to travel and do what I was doing when I was off my job. You know, when I wasn't working in a hotel, I was traveling because I wanted that experience, but then that became everything that I was doing. And after doing that for, you know, I think it was close to a little bit over 4 to 5 years. I was ready for a change. I was kind of seeing what else could I do. And that's when I started to really ask if I could move into other regions within the world and do what we do, because I wanted more of an experience. And then COVID happened. So it just, you know, I think what has worked for me throughout this transition of not just what has happened now, but throughout my life, is you always have to look at the world not the way that people say, oh, this is the real world, you know, in the real world this happens. But I listened to a podcast recently, and then a gentleman was saying something about when people tell you you don't live in the real world, you should say to them, I don't. I live in the living world. I live. And I like that really hit me, because I think that when people say the real world, they're really focusing on a lot of the negativity of the world, and that can bog you down, and you can kind of see that half glass full, half glass, you know, empty. But for me, I try to see the world as how can I live in it and truly be alive. So I have definitely felt more alive than ever with this new lifestyle that I'm living through. And I don't regret, of course, I love my background and what I've done. And if it wasn't for all of that, I wouldn't be where I am today. But all of this has given me courage to be where I am kind of today.
Oh, I love hearing that so much, Deanna, because I think everything that you just said, you have such a sight of what your passion is and like what your purpose here is. And I think a lot of the times we tie that to a job or to a title or to a salary. Once I make this, I'll be happy. But the way that you live, you're finding that happiness every single day and challenging yourself with the connections that you like to make. I love that you're my language learning partner, trying to learn, I think it was French recently, right? And I was working on my Spanish, and you were kind of my buddy on that. But I think that you're such a great example of finding your passion and your purpose, and just being so hungry to keep achieving more and more through that, and challenging yourself in what you know, and learning every single day. I think is something that I've noticed from you, and just from what you said.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And thank you. And you're right. Just, you know, surround yourself by things that make you happy. You know, for me, learning makes me happy. And some people, it stresses them out, and they don't want to go to college, and, you know, they don't want to get that title, and that's fine. I would say don't do it. If that's something that you just want to start a business, go ahead and start a business. Yeah. For me, the more I learn, if it's languages or how to do something, or a challenge, you know, another thing we've been budding on is weight challenge, right? Like, how do we become more self-aware of your health and wellness, especially during these times? So like for me, learning and challenging and surrounding myself with things that give me life and happiness. Happiness is in the eye of the beholder. And like you said, for some people it's a title, some people it's getting to a position, and for others it's just being content with where they are. And for me, it's a mix of those, right? So the other thing is something I learned is getting the stress factors out. So of course, you know, we need to be financially conscious during these times, and the lifestyle that I have now, I can't continue living and spending the way that I was before. I'm not making the salary I was making, and I am content as long as I don't have the responsibilities of paying what I was paying before. So one of my biggest learnings with this change has been being more of a minimalist. So as I was telling you right before our call is, you know, every day I'm looking at things and saying, is this helping me getting closer to where I need to get if I hold on to it? You know, something simple like a pillow that, you know, I had 10 pillows, you know, and do I really need to carry 2 pillows around with me everywhere, or am I okay with just one? You know, things like looking at your clothes. Do I really need 10 jackets? You know, because everything is space, and space means I need more space, and more space means you're spending more money to get a bigger place every time you move, you know. And so taking the stressors out is another thing that I've learned to help me be happier and less stressed. And it's not an easy thing to do, you know, because we've become very attached to things, the way of living, as well as the intangible and tangible things is what I'm talking about.
Definitely. And you just alluded to a couple of things that I definitely want to unpack. I'll start with the first one that you said. Your wellness journey has been truly incredible that you've embarked on, and that kind of kicked off in this COVID period where everybody was kind of a little bit stressed, and the fridge is right there, and I'm gonna, like, that was me when COVID first started. I was working in the kitchen, got my eyes on the fridge, and it was a struggle because what if you're usually in an office, or if you're like us, usually you're traveling and you're standing in front of a classroom for 8 hours and you're not munching all day. So that's something that I'm sure a lot of us can relate with. So tell us a little bit about like what you learned about yourself and what you found that you really enjoyed. Because I think one of the other things you said too is so perfect, is that something I like and I found success doesn't mean that you have to, but keep trying to find what's your solution, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All bodies and minds are not created equal, so I think it's important for us to find each other. So I'll tie all this back together in a moment, but I was recently talking to one of the new people I've met through this nomad life, and she was just saying that her happiness is finding somebody, her soulmate. She's just really much looking for her soulmate. But right before that, she was talking to me about her weight and how she wasn't happy where she was. And she was asking me what my journey had been like, because I told her, I was in your shoes. I weighed 200 pounds, and when she was telling me about her soulmate, said, but find yourself first. I think happiness, you have to be happy with yourself first before you can really like put that energy out to the universe, so that you can then find whatever it is that you're finding, if it's a soulmate or if it's the job that you want or if it's the lifestyle that you want. But for me, that is what has helped me get here, because I truly found myself. I found what I wanted. I started working on myself, and when I started to see progression, everything else just kind of fell into the right place. So and in the beginning of 2020, I had already set in my mind that I wanted to be a healthier version of me. My biggest struggle was the job that I had made it very difficult to do that. And as much as, and I would always look at you like, rather than going out, I should be going to the gym like Audrey, or I should be getting up early. But I was just physically and mentally exhausted. I just didn't have that willpower at the time, because traveling got tiring to a point, though I loved what I did, but it didn't give me space for me. I would give my 150% to the job, and I wasn't allowing any more percentage for myself. So I kind of had that in my mind. January of this year, I said, I'm going to try to do other things. So I really pushed myself to do as much as I could. As I travel with Luna everywhere. So Luna is my excuse of getting outside of the hotel and doing, even if it's walking outside. So when COVID hit and we were locked down for travel, I just kind of took that as an opportunity. I said, great, everything I said that is an excuse why I wasn't doing it is no longer an excuse. I no longer have all this travel, and I no longer have, I'm eating out all the time because I have to, because I'm not at home in the kitchen. So now I'm like, I'm in the kitchen. There's no reason for me to go outside. I get food delivered to me, as I have always been doing that before COVID. Let me really take advantage of this. So I pushed myself to do things that I just always said I didn't have the time to. So I was going to Orange Theory right before COVID, which is a gym that does hit high intensity interval training for 45 to an hour. So you're doing different exercise throughout. And I just thought, let me see how I can do this at home. So I Googled it. I started doing Orange Theory Home Edition, which is free on YouTube for anyone that's interested. And I started doing one class a day. And, that alone, I started to notice just I had more energy, I was excited to get up and do it every morning. And I made it part of my routine. There was no excuse for me not to do it. The first thing I did in the morning was that, and then I could go on with the rest of my day working online. So that was one. Then I started challenging myself to do other things that I always said I don't have the time to. So I've always heard drink a gallon of water a day. That's great. So I literally got a gallon, and I was like, I'm going to do the gallon a day. And I started doing a gallon a day. And then the gallon came to a gallon and a half. And I was, the other reason why I was never drinking so much is because, when you and I are training in front of a room, you can't be going to the bathroom in 30 minutes. So, but now I'm like, I'm home, so I can. So I started drinking. Then when they allowed the parks opened up again, I live very close to one of the biggest parks in San Diego, Balboa. So I started, running out there 30 minutes. So all of these little things started to make an impact, and I started to feel better about myself. I started to be, this is the other thing that happened to many people during COVID. They didn't just start stress eating, but because they no longer had a set schedule of something, the stress kicks in, the mental stress, right? Like, I'm all out of whack because I used to do this every day now, and for me, actually, I was all out of whack before, and now I had a schedule. So it was totally the opposite. And
good point.
Yeah. And, again, everyone's life's different, but for me, it really helped me organize much better. I started writing, I started painting, I started
yoga. I saw your yoga.
Yeah, I started doing yoga, which I had always done yoga, but now it was part of my schedule. It was part of my routine, I started to do positions I couldn't before. So for me to do a headstand, that was a big deal. For me to do bridge, like full bridge, that was a big deal. So these little steps, it gave me more more like, oh my gosh, this change is something I want to embrace. And to be honest with you, I started thinking, like, if we do go back to normal, I almost don't want to go back to normal now, because I want to see how I can bring this into whatever that normal is in the future again.
Right.
So yeah, no, it was quite a journey. And I'll tell you, if I could give an advice to anyone out there, is progression pictures and data is so important, because there's one thing about you just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I look a little better, but there's another thing when you're measuring yourself and and you're like, wow, that's a big difference when you're weighing yourself. And it's not all about weight, right? That's another thing I learned is don't beat yourself up if you're not seeing that huge weight loss, because it's not all about weight. Your whole body's changing, and it's not just what you see on the scale that's making a difference. So and the big aha moment for me, this is funny, but the first 3 months I didn't leave my apartment. I mean, if I left my apartment, it was just to run in the park and there was nobody there and come back. So I really didn't see anybody. So I was always in yoga and workout pants, right? And then when I started to attend a new orientation, when I got hired for Northwestern Mutual, which was the next job that I got after being laid off, they told that, I dressed up. I had not dressed up in 3 months. So it was the first time I was going to put work pants on, because I had been wearing my, like, the tight, yoga pants, running pants, and they all fell off of me. And it was the first time I had ever put them on. So that feeling of, I can't even go back to wearing the same clothes I was wearing for this, was such a positive feeling for me. And I sent my mom a picture. I had 3 oranges in my pants. And I'm like, look, Mom, I lost 3 oranges around my waist. Because
oh my gosh,
the only way the pants held up is if the 3 oranges were there.
That is cool. That is really neat. And you feel comfortable. It's nice sometimes when you feel like, oh, this feels a little more comfortable than it used to, like not quite as snug. Or I like that you mentioned it's not always about stepping on the scale, but like, oh, these sleeves are fitting a little looser right now, because it distributes. It's not fair to put it all in one data point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's and our body changes depending, on your height, your weight, your sex. Like it starts, different areas change faster than other areas. So when I was able to do the headstand and I looked at my back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have muscles back there. That's how I can do the headstand now. I never had that before. And that didn't happen till months later. And I wasn't unhappy that my weight wasn't going down, because I started to educate myself on, muscle equals weight. And that's a good thing if it's not going down. So anyways, it's been quite a journey, and it's not just about wellness in the sense of exercise and losing weight, but it's also about meditation. So like doing morning meditations. I think I use the Insight app which is a free app. And every night I go to sleep to a night meditation, because it's all about positive messages. You know, it's something that I can't see myself not doing anymore. It's just something that it kind of resonates with me, right? As I listen to these messages. So it's about exercise, it's about doing that meditation on the side, and eating healthier. So, you know, cooking at home for me was a huge game changer. Not going out, and a lot of people started ordering it, and I'm all about supporting, of course, the industry. Sure. I started to do that like month 4th of COVID, at least once a weekend, just because I wanted to help locals. But at the same time, like, you know, I don't want to lose that focus. And gradually I'm going back to doing a little bit more of, you know, going out and eating out. You know, now I'm going out than before, but being very safe. And at the same time, my body's adapted to the point that I don't feel guilty doing it. I don't feel like I'm going backwards. I feel like it's a new lifestyle.
Yeah. It sounds like you have like kind of a sustainable mindset of what you wanted out of this, and it wasn't to be a certain size. It wasn't to, you know, look like I did 10 years ago, or whatever your prime weight was, wherever you were at that point. It was, I want to have 2020. I want to be well. I want to have a healthy outlook on, you know, my mentality with the meditating, but also I want to pursue. And I loved too that you made a promise to yourself and you kept it. In the beginning of the year, you were like, I'm going to do 1 workout a day. Orange Theory, let's go, let's do this. And then now you trickled into all these other things that it's just like, look what all you're capable of. And it starts with making that one promise to yourself and keeping it.
Yeah, and keeping it. So I put a quote recently on my Instagram that said something like, you don't have to be extraordinary, you just have to be consistent. You know, and that has made it, you know, it's not these huge things that I did that were different. There were little things, but I was consistent and through a long period of time. Yeah. So fast forward, now we're in November, and I am now 44 pounds down.
Wow.
And my weight goal is 50. Like once I get to 50, that's when I'm like, you know, I don't need to lose more than that. I'm happy, but I'm already happy. I am challenging myself. My weight was to get to 40 pounds less. So I've already surpassed that. I'm challenging myself a little bit more, just to say, like, you know, this is where I'm going to keep my weight moving forward for the rest of my life, because it is not a one-time thing. I'm not going to yo-yo back, you know, which people do, and I don't want to do that. Yeah, it's kind of setting that goal and being consistent and keeping it there. And with this new lifestyle, my priority is not my job. It's not making money. My priority is doing what I need to do to take care of myself, physically, mentally, and things fall into track after that.
Love it. And I'm glad that you just kind of alluded back to this lifestyle change too, because I've had the pleasure of watching your journey on Facebook and social media and seeing what you're up to these days. And you talked a little bit about the minimalistic mindset, but can you tell our listeners what have you decided to do over the last few months, and how's that going?
Sure. So, you know, when all these changes started to occur, actually back in March, my lease was done in April, and you know, March is when everyone was locking down, and there was no way I was going to leave in a place that I was very comfortable in, and being not around family in San Diego. I thought this. And
you had just moved, right? You had just moved to San Diego.
I moved in August. Yeah, so I had only been here for a few months, but basically I had not been here very much because we were traveling all the time. So I felt like I wasn't ready to really take any big leaps yet. I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the job at the time, what was going to happen, but I had a feeling come April that this was going to be very serious. Actually, the call when we were told we would be under furlough for the first time, that for me was kind of like a big eye opener. I said, this is, I got to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And mentally, I need to start preparing myself for the worst so that the impact of stress and the straw, like when that call comes, if it comes, I will be ready for it. And I'm happy to say that I was very prepared for it. And when April came and they asked me about my lease, already thinking forward, I said, let me just sign it up to July. And here's the thing, I am preparing for the worst. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But if I can't meet this rent, is because I don't have the job I had anymore, and I don't want the stress of having to pay this and having to do a job that wouldn't make me happy, that just gives me the money, would just deteriorate everything I was building up to that point. So my whole thing was, if I lose this job, that means I need to minimize my lifestyle, minimize the amount of things that I have, so I don't need that much space. And to be honest with you, I'm like, I want to see the world. I've always wanted to travel because I want to, not because I had to, and choose the places that I want to live in. Actually, this is something that even prior to this year, I was thinking of how I could do, but with the job that we had, we always had to be in a certain region, right? Like, it's not like I could live in France for a month and do the job we were doing because of the amount of travel we're doing in the US. So I kind of saw this as an opportunity, and I said to myself, I'm going to prepare to minimize the amount of things I have. I've always been a saver. I've always put money away for a rainy day. So, you know, that is a huge help right now. I have a foundation of things that of small savings, but it's something so that if I'm making zero income, at least I can, you know, continue living in a most minimalist way. So when my lease was up, a beautiful 2-bedroom loft, I sold everything that I had. You build an entire life of things, because we're always, every time, you know, we buy, it's our things, and we build and we build and we build. And now I got rid of all of it, you know. So I left my apartment with, I mean, still a lot, but like 10 boxes, 5 suitcases, and my computer monitors that I'm looking at. So, and my printer, and I still have a lot that I need to, you know, get rid of. But let me tell you the truth, that the first day I made that decision, I looked at my apartment and I thought, I have such a beautiful place. I worked so hard for all these things, and I can't imagine. I'm going to put it all in storage. That was my first, I'm just going to put it all in storage. And then the next day I looked at the things again and I said, but how, you know, these things are just going to get old and dusty and they're going to be wasted in the storage. Let me think about it. And then the third day I said, I'm going to give them a better place to be at where they're going to be used. Mm-hmm. And then the money I make out of selling these things are going to help me live the lifestyle I want to live, of the experiences. So by the fourth day, I started posting everything on OfferUp, which is an app where you can sell things. And let me tell you, every time I sold something, I felt less stress. I felt like weight was coming off my shoulders, because, you know, just something as easy as like my futon, or not futon, but like I had an L couch, my whole bedroom set. If I didn't get rid of these things, I'd have to get a truck, and then I had to get a storage place. And then that's all more work and more money that I don't want to put money towards that. If I have any money, I want to put it towards the experience that I was wanting to live. Yeah. So I'm happy to say, like, that was the hardest step for me. It was a step-by-step, like, mentality change of, I worked so hard for this, why would I get rid of it? To, you know what, it would just be, it would just not be a good idea for me to keep this. It's a waste of time, money, and space. And then these things are going to help me propel me forward. Actually, getting rid of things help propel me forward to where I want to be. So yeah. So that's how my lifestyle started. Just really thinking about getting rid of things. And then
you just made me think of, I heard this podcast recently that I can't remember the name of the girl, Gretchen something. It's called Out of Order, Inner Peace. And she talks about how there's just so much stuff that we accumulate. And she was even like kind of coaching the guy that was interviewing her. And he was like, well, I have this really ugly vase that my wife and I got for our wedding. And she's like, why do you have it? It's really ugly. Do you use it? No, but it's sentimental. Take a picture of it. Right. So I think that's like a very profound statement, that when you said you just kind of felt like the stress kind of melt off. Yeah. When you were able to give some of those things to people that could use them at that time, because they no longer were serving you.
Exactly. And I'll tell you that even the smallest things, like I posted, there was this I don't know, maybe you got it, but like during our work time, we actually got a computer from Emergenetics. Yeah. Do you remember doing the training?
Yeah.
And it's been sitting in a drawer forever. I also had this kitchen porcelain set that my uncle, it was sentimental, like a past uncle had given to me, and I never used it, right? I just had them sitting there, and I looked at them like, let me just put them up. I mean, and the people that actually purchased those items, they came and they cried when they came to pick them up, because they're like, I put them for amazing prices for what it really was. And I would have sat in a storage if I wouldn't have just given it to somebody. And I still got something out of it, you know, but the reaction of them taking that stuff from me was the biggest payment I received. They were thanking me so much. Like the computer, this woman needed it for her child's education because she's low income. She's like, I can't afford to get her computer. And you giving this to me for $10 is like, oh my God, you know, like that touched me so much that I'm like, what else can I get rid of? Because I don't need that. I just don't even use, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this porcelain set that somebody got for me, it reminded them of their mother, and their mother had just lost everything in a fire. And that was the mother's like symbol of what the kitchen used to be like. And again, I sold it for nothing. And it made them cry, and it made me cry. I was just like, oh my God, take it, please. This is amazing. So yeah, it definitely brought a lot of peace to me. And going back to the quote, because I know I already said it, but like as I was going through this journey, I was looking at things that really resonated. And one of them was, is everything you're doing right now getting you closer to where you want to be today? So everything that I was selling was helping me get closer. So by the time I sold everything, I had $9,000 in my bank that I didn't have before, you know? And of course, all my things were worth a lot more than that, but $9,000 is $9,000 that can be half a year somewhere, you know, and that really made me content and happy. And I am now in my 6th experience. I call every new place I live in an experience, because it truly is. I don't rent a car. I don't have a car. If I can get to it by foot or by my bicycle, which is while I'm in the US, my bicycle's with me. It's going everywhere. But I really get to understand the community. And something I've come to know is something called slow tourism. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I am taking my time in a place. I'm living in it I'm trying now, moving forward, to live at least 30 days. Anything less than 30 days is just, time flies too fast. And I really don't feel like I get to experience it very well. But so far, I've been in different places in San Diego. San Diego is such a big city. And without a car, like experiencing just the beach in one space. I was in the desert for another time. I went glamping behind the mountains in San Diego another time. And at the same time, you know, like balancing this new lifestyle, and I'm still trying to become better at packing, you know, the packing and unpacking. And I travel with Luna everywhere. So it's not just me, it's me and her, and make sure I have things for her things and my things that are necessities that make it feel like home. So just to give you one quick example, like the first thing I do when I come to places, I unpack my kitchen things. And my kitchen things are my Nespresso machine that I can't live without. my brother, which is part of the Nespresso. And then what I call my Vision, which is posted on every refrigerator that I go to. And my Vision, it's like a board, but obviously I can't carry a board with me. So it's 2 pieces of paper that keep reminding me of where is it that I'm going, because I can easily lose where I'm going with all this movement all the time. But the vision board keeps me where I'm going, and where I want to end up is in France in the end of next year, in a place that I'm content doing some online job, and maybe even getting a further education from what I have right now while I'm there, so I can stay there legally for a long time, not just as a tourist for a short time. So my vision board is just a big description of all the things, and in there I have words like you're resilient, you're agile, don't give up, don't be afraid, listen to the universe, you know, and these things, you know, are outputs that I'm then getting the inputs to, if that makes sense.
I love that so much. Man, I really hope that everybody has a Deanna in their life, because I'm very grateful that I do. And just in case they don't, which they probably don't because you're 1 in a million, I'm glad that we get to have this conversation here on this podcast, because I think everything that you just said and everything that kind of brings you back to the present moment of what am I here to do, and not let some of that noise sometimes maybe deter us or distract us from what we really want out of this life. I think you have really great practices in place that serve as a reminder to keep you focused, and it's proving that it's doing its job. And I'm grateful to have this knowledge now, be able to put these in my pocket, because it gets hard, right? It's not always so simple to keep your eyes on the prize or your focus, but it takes the promises you keep to yourself, it takes the intentionality and just your hunger to go find more and continue to seek what lights you up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And thank you for that compliment, by the way. I'm really happy to, my aha moments have been, just being myself and just talking, just people kind of saying, I've been needing to hear something like this from somebody, because I've heard it from others, and now I'm kind of like passing that message on. And here's something during this experience, I met somebody at another Airbnb, and he was at a part of his life that he's just like, I decided to just leave where I am for a month. This is why I'm here. And I just need to clear my mind. And I needed to meet someone like you and hear your story to know that it's a possibility to not live the conventional life and not live in the reality, but live to live and be alive. And I said to him something that I read or heard, or, during all these different forums that I'm now touching, but it was, don't ask someone for directions who has never been on the path that you're trying to get on. And that, what he was telling me would seem very much like that. Like, many people in his very close circle did not understand what the heck he was trying to do. And he was just trying to do something different than everybody does. And for me, like, giving him that message, I could see that aha, I could see the spark in his eye. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take that with me. And I'm like, good, because I took it with me and I'm passing it on to you. And that's awesome. Like, that's very fulfilling. So I think that what you surround yourself with definitely gets you to this mindset, or not, or it pushes you away from it. And I'm so happy to say that I'm at a point in life where everyone that is in my close circle is pushing me forward. None of them are trying to hold me back. And those that were in some point in time in life, they're farthest from my circle. They're not out of the circle, but they're farthest because I need to take care of me,
I'm like goosebumps over here. That was so good, so helpful. And it just reminds me of when we used to be able to travel and have our little sidebar conversations between a session, or we'd be late for dinner because we were having a heart-to-heart about our hearts and what we want out of this life. Because I think it's, like you said, it's so important to surround yourself by people that are going to help bring that out of you. And I think that is such a good takeaway, to always kind of take account of who's in your circle. Should they be there? Are they helping you? And make the changes as needed. I think that's such a powerful way to live. And just the way that you said, non-conventionally, why do we do things that we think social media wants us to do or society wants us to do? That's not truly living.
No. I had one person in my life tell me once, you're getting old and you should make this decision now. And right there and then, for me, that felt so wrong inside of me that I just said, I know it's coming out of love, because this person, it was not coming from a bad place. They really thought they were doing right by saying that. But I need to put you on the outside of the circle right now, because there is this, I'm on an island of happiness and love. And that type of messaging is bringing bad weather. So.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh. So many good quotes. Gianna, I already know that I've got to have you on again, because I know we just touched the surface on all of your experiences. I love that you even call like your 30-day life. Those are experiences. My next experience is here, because it's all about the journey, not the destination. And I think that you're such a great example of living that. So I have a coaching call. I'm so sad I've got to hop off, but that was truly incredible. I really appreciate your time. You're a very cherished friend, and I'm glad that we're maintaining close relationship, and definitely want to hear all about your journey onward and I will keep you in the loop about what's going on and my side as well, because I think we've got a lot to reflect on as we go.